The Battle of Germantown started in the morning early. There was fog. The conditions were overcast. The beginning of it was General Howe had 2 light infantry sentries that were set up. They were encampments down what's now Germantown Avenue. And the Continentals were still upset over the Paoli massacre and were very much looking for blood, point blank. And actually, as they came charging down to attack those advanced batteries, they were shouting, "Remember the Wayne affair," in reference to General Wayne and the Paoli massacre.
Behind the Marylanders, Anthony Wayne's Pennsylvanians, who are just itching to get back at the British light infantry with bayonets. When Wayne's troops come into the battle, they are shouting, "Remember Paoli," and they're going to bayonet every British soldier they get their hands on.
General Howe was alerted to it in Philadelphia from signal cannons that had went off here. He rode out to assess what was going on.
One of the light infantry officers, Lieutenant Martin Hunter, tells us as the light infantry broke and ran, General Howe came riding up. General Howe was one of the founders of British light infantry back in the French and Indian War. They were his favorite troops, and he saw them running in array, and he started yelling at them. The British officer's account says that Howe was shouting, "For shame, light infantry! You're running away from a scouting party! Form up, form up!" That British officer says at that moment, a round of grape shot from an American cannon went off and hit a tree right near where Howe was sitting on his horse. It almost threw him off his horse. And he said, "I never saw men enjoy a round of grape shot more than that." Because the commander-in-chief had just been yelling at us for running away from the scouting party. Howe suddenly realizes it's a little bigger than that. Yes. There's 350 British light infantry with 3,000 angry Pennsylvania and Maryland troops descending on them.
They hit the first battery and blew right through it, chasing some of the 40th as well as other groups down Germantown Avenue. They ran into the second battery and were just relentless, chasing them down towards here where Cliveden, where it ended.
Musgrave, seeing the situation, ordered the 100 British troops that were with him to go inside Cliveden.
I was in both the Battle of Brandywine and Germantown. I am a teamster and I am a bombardier. Teamster, I drive a wagon load of gunpowder and ammunition, and I'm pulling one of the artillery pieces, one of the cannons behind my wagon. I get it onto the battlefield, I get it into position, I load up the ammunition box in the back, and then I fall into one of the 3 rear positions of the cannon, the bombardier positions. There's a picture, a painting of the Chew House. It has 4 cannons bombarding the house. That is Proctor's 3rd Pennsylvania Artillery. That is the artillery unit that I am part of.
It was a running battle. It ran completely all the way down here to the Cliveden house, and at that point, only a small group of the King's Army held up inside the house, but the Continentals didn't know that and decided to attack the house. They didn't want to leave it behind while the majority of the King's Army made its way to Philadelphia.
I'm representing a soldier in the 15th Virginia, which actually fought on the north side of the Chew Mansion over here to the right. With that, they actually were part of General Stevens' division, which was underneath Nathaniel Greene later on. And with that, they actually advanced as one of the morning engagements and pursued forward, but they were actually cut off and they didn't realize actually where they were going to. So they heard the sound of the gunfire around the Chew Mansion and they actually redirected themselves to attack it. And in turn, they were actually ended up forced back, where a lot of them were captured or killed actually in the fighting that was so close to here. So the uniform that I'm wearing is actually that impression for today.
You know, we're ladies that visited the Chew family, and the Brits came in, and we don't have papers to be able to get out of town to visit. So we're kind of stuck here, and hopefully we'll be able to get some dinner later at someone's home and be able to get my items back.
I heard a lot of loud noise in the morning, and I just ended up running the other way. I hid, made sure I found a nice sturdy building and waited for the fire to stop. And I don't know how many got killed, but I don't know what to say. Everything is, there's just carnage everywhere. And I don't know. All I can say is I pray for them.
The 1st and 3rd New Jersey regiments were chosen to assault the house from the front. Across the street, the 4 American artillery pieces started to fire grape shot at the second floor of the house. Grape shot is kind of like a shotgun blast. We don't know exactly how many assaults were on the house. There were several. Each one of them failed. But some of the Jersey troops actually got in the front door of the house. They were found dead after the battle, bayoneted, trying to get in the front.
Well, yes, that's what we do. We give them we give them the cold steel when they get too close. Most of them run off before we even get within sight of them. They're not much for bravery. Some of them have more bravery than others, but for the most part, they're an undisciplined rabble.
Continentals tried to attack the house, could not take the house.
And the American forces came, pushed us back. We had no other choice but to retreat back to the Chew house. They gave a request with a white flag to get us to surrender, and we refused by killing their messenger.
Well, of course, that was just a horrible act.
Well, in the heat of the battle, things happen.
They wanted to have a truce and have the surrender, and of course, the King's Army's answer was to shoot them. And as I said, that just enraged them more. As I said before, they were already mad over what had happened at Paoli and the way that they were brutally attacked there. They were bayoneted in the night. They were attacked in their camp. So their rage just was expounded by it. And then that was just unheard of. It was that was ungentlemanly. That was just the wrong thing to do.
The British Grenadiers came double timing up from Philadelphia. Quite a run for it. They got to the battle just as the American army started to withdraw. The chaos caused a lot of American troops to stop where they were, wonder who was on their flank, and then to start to fall back to an abundance of caution.
The Americans were supposed to win that battle, and they were supposed to win because they had the momentum, but because there was a lot of confusion during the battle, the weather was very foggy, they lost a lot of command and control, they weren't able to carry the momentum and push the British off the field, and the British were able to rally much quicker and repel the Americans and carry the day.
The rest of what was here, the King's Army made it back into Philadelphia. They did not want to pursue them into Philadelphia, so ended up losing the day. Headed out of here, headed back north, and continued to harass the outer sentries.
Oh, well, we did what we always do. We pushed the rebels off the field. It was all over before breakfast, to be honest with you.
The only shame is that our plans didn't quite come off the way that we wished they would have.
Didn't go into Valley Forge until a couple months later, where they finally spent the winter of 77 into the beginning of 78, encamped at Valley Forge so they could keep an eye on General Howe and the British Army who were in Philadelphia. Initially, General Howe wanted to set up his headquarters here in Germantown, but the pressure, it was decided he needed to be in Philadelphia with the rest of his army, so he ended up moving out of Germantown and taking up residence in the city.
Well, onward. Maybe we might do better in the ongoing part of the war. I am your humble servant, now and forever. Edward Heck.
Thank you. That was excellent.